Hey, what's going on? In this video, I am going to be sharing with you some really powerful content creation tips for social media. So if you sell courses, consulting, coaching, affiliate products, whatever it may be, and you leverage social media to do it, these tips are going to be really powerful for you. I literally just got done putting together a new resource for some of my private coaching students. So I thought it was the appropriate time to put this video out for all of you out there who might be looking for information on this, okay? If you haven't already, be sure to firstly subscribe to the channel, smash the like button because you're gonna get a ton out of this video. All right, let's jump into it, okay? So if you're creating content on social media, there's a very strong chance that your goal is you wanna sell stuff, right? You wanna monetize the time and the effort that you're putting into creating content, the time that you're spending on social media, okay? If you're not, you need to really think about that really quickly. What are you selling? What's your offer? What's your product? Because without that, content becomes very difficult and it becomes kind of pointless because you're just creating content for the sake of creating content. If you're of this mindset that I'll just keep creating content, I'll build up an audience and I'll offer them something later, I think you're gonna be in for a bit of a shock because you're probably gonna create a big audience of freebie seekers who don't really wanna buy anything, okay? So to me, content and offer go hand in hand. They talk to each other. You can't have one without the other. So if you don't have clarity on the offer yet, I would recommend that you go and do that, okay? Now, with that said, there's two modes that you can be in when you're out on social media creating content and kind of doing your thing, in my eyes. You're either in launching mode or you're in evergreen mode. Now let me explain the difference. Launching mode is if you're promoting something that's new, there's limited spots, it's available for a limited time, you might be doing an affiliate launch, you might be promoting a webinar for a live event. It's something that's not always available for people to purchase, right? That's the evergreen side of things, okay? So the very first thing you need to understand when you're trying to plan out your content, when you're trying to come up with your promotional calendars, when you're trying to map out what your week, what your month, what your quarter looks like, from a content perspective, when you're trying to map those things out, the very first thing you need to know is, am I in launching mode for this period or am I in evergreen mode for this period? Or if I'm gonna be in both, where's the cutoff, right? I'm in launching mode for the next 2 weeks, then I'm going to evergreen mode. You need to be clear on that because that's gonna dictate what you're promoting, that's gonna dictate the sales process that you're using, and it's going to dictate the type of content that you need to be creating and the sequence that you are creating it in, okay? So with that clarified, what I really wanna do quickly is just kind of segue and talk about structurally, you've got 4 different types of content that you can create, right? You can put content out there that is, and I'm talking about free content, that has no offer, no call to action, no go click on this thing, right? You can just put a post out there on Facebook or a post out there on Instagram with no call to action, that's one. You can put something out there that has like a really gentle, soft call to action, you know, go do this, go do that. If you're interested in a bit more info, like I do in some of these videos, go check out the links in the description if you wanna look at the different programs that we offer. You can do posts that have very clear lead generation, call to action. So it might be for a lead magnet or a bait type post. You know, I could do a video on here and I could say, if you want access to this new thing that I've created, you know, click the link in the description. That's the sole purpose of it, is lead generation. Or you can do a direct offer post or a direct offer piece of content that literally says, here's what I got, here's what it's gonna do for you, and here's how you can go and buy it, here's the bonuses, here's the price, all that kind of stuff. It's a pitch, it's a sales pitch, okay? They're your 4 buckets of content that really you're gonna bounce around between for the most part. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's not that complicated. There's really only those 4, and you need a healthy rotation of all of those because some of them build goodwill and some of them are gonna detract from the goodwill when you make an offer, right? If you're making just offer posts, they're going to start to wear thin. If you're making just value type posts or just things with no call to action, you're not gonna be making any money. So you've got to cycle through them nicely if you want a good balance of building up goodwill, but then also getting paid, okay? That is, that's really from a structural perspective. Now, within each of those kind of silos of content, you can do a lot of different things, okay? So if we start with the first bucket and we talk about, you know, content that has no call to action, there's no offer, there's no pitch, it's just being put out there to potentially bring new people into your audience or nurture the people already in your audience. Some angles that you might want to think about include, how to, right? Like I'm doing with you right now, how to do stuff. That's just straight up value-based content that's educating your audience on the way you do things, or how to do a certain thing, how to achieve a certain result. It's helping them in advance of them buying anything, and that builds trust over time. Okay, it's not the most powerful when it comes to selling, surprisingly. Some people think that if they just put out a lot of how-to content, it's going to sell. It's not. That's the next bucket, in my opinion, is what I call perspective shifting content. This is where you really have an opportunity through your content to differentiate yourself, right? Whatever it is that you're selling, whatever niche you're in, there's going to be people who do things in a certain way, and you probably do things slightly different. Perspective shifting content is your opportunity to highlight what other people do, show people why that's not the right way, and then show them how you do things and why that is the right way to do things. Okay, that's how you can bring people around to your way of thinking. And if you do that over time, you start to bring people into your audience and you start to push away the people who don't think like you. Okay, that's another thing to think about when it comes to your, I guess, more value-based content or stuff where you're not really making an offer. The other things you can do are, what are the biggest objections you typically run into when you're trying to sell your stuff? That can be great content. You don't have to give a call to action, but what you're doing is you're nudging people towards a purchasing decision, right? You're slowly knocking over those objections through your content, all right? Other things you might want to think about including stories, your lifestyle, what you're up to, lessons, experiences, testimonials, all those kind of things that are happening in your business or in your life, or whatever niche it is that you're in. They all make great content, even if there's not a call to action, because it's building up that bank of goodwill, it's building up trust, it's building up authority, it's building up your audience of people who like you, right? They like you, they like your style, they like you, the way you go about doing things. And then when it comes to either doing content with a soft pitch or direct lead generation content or direct offers, you've really built up this bank of value a lot more that you can kind of, withdraw from when you make a pitch, right? Now, if you're making soft call to actions, that can be a lot like the first bucket of content that we just spoke about. Your lead generation content, I typically prefer that to be shorter form, because you don't want to be giving away the farm, right? The whole point of a lead generation content is you come up with a creative hook, and if people raise their hand, then you've generated a lead, and then you can start moving people through your sales process, okay? As with selling products, you can consider like pre-selling your lead magnets. You can put something out there, see if it hits. If it does, that's fantastic, and you can roll on with it, right? If it gets crickets, you can delete it and know that angle didn't really work. So you can actually gauge the interest before going and spending all the time creating the lead magnet. That's something to think about. And then when it comes to making your actual offers, what I would encourage you to do is learn a couple of different strategies to present your offers, okay? So you're not just presenting the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? If you want strategies on how to do that, check out the Fast Cash Rolodex. That's in the description, and it's gonna give you a bunch of strategies that you can go and implement really quickly around lead generation and conversion into buyers and extracting cash from your audience, okay? So with all of these structures and with all of these ideas and frameworks and stuff, you want to be rotating through them so that you're not always just doing the same thing, right? Now, a couple more comments on launch mode versus evergreen mode, okay? When you're doing your launches, I really think about it in 4 phases. You've got your initial kind of hype building or teaser phase. That's where you're letting people know that stuff is coming. These can be very simple posts. They could be testimonials. They could share results. It could be a variety of things, but it's just saying, hey, there's something coming. You can tell people why it's different, why it's not like anything they've seen before, why they want to pay attention, when you're going to be going live, all of those kind of things. Then you go live, right? You say, here's this thing, go get it. Typically at that point, you're going to see a lot of your your true fans or your warmer leads or your emotional buyers are going to jump in at that point. Then you've got the big chunk of your launch phase, and this is where you really need to start working on tipping some of those more logical buyers who are saying, not quite sure, need to think about it. And that's where your content really needs to start shifting perspectives, handling objections, doing all those things. Then you come to your close down. And this might be a week, but the biggest period you want to focus on for your close down is the last 72 hours. Okay. Doesn't matter how many times I do this. Every time I do it, I'm shocked at the amount of people who jump in the last couple of days. And that last few days, if you've rolled out a launch, you've put all the work and the effort into it, that is not the time to take the foot off the pedal. I see people time and time again, they do all the work and then they get to that close down where this is honestly where such a big chunk of the sales are made. And they get scared. They slow down because they're worried about pissing people off from making too many pitches, right? If in that phase you're pissing people off and they're leaving your audience, that's fine. That's fine. They probably weren't going to buy anyway. Okay, it's actually a really good filtration mechanism for your audience, because then when you go back into goodwill building mode, you've eliminated people who weren't going to buy anyway. All right, so be prepared to piss a few people off in those last couple of days with, regular offers, because honestly, nothing sells like a deadline. All right, so there's a couple of things to think about when it comes to your launches. They're the phases you really want to be moving through. That could be over a week, it could be over a month, it could be over 6 weeks. Just depends what you are doing. And then when you pivot back more to your evergreen mode, right, just think about having a healthy rotation of those different pieces of content that we spoke about. Remember what I said, how-to content isn't always the most powerful. People think it is, but there's nothing more powerful, in my opinion, than when you shift someone's perspective, right? If you think about the times in your life where you thought something was true and then someone highlighted something to you and you're like, oh, no, actually that's right. That always sticks with you. And that's how you can really quickly build rapport and trust with people. So look at integrating that content as well as touching on people's pains and problems. They're really, really powerful motivators, and really articulating clearly to people, hey, I understand what your pains and problems are, and here's a bit of a path for you to fix them. Okay, so there's some tips for you on content creation for your social media with a big tilt towards monetization. It's different from the way a lot of people do it. They're big on creating content and then kind of figure that stuff out later. I go the other way. Let it be driven by your offers. That's ultimately why you're creating content, is to sell stuff for the majority of people. So put that first and then let that dictate how you go about doing the content. Okay, give that stuff a go. Give the video a like if you got anything out of this one. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.